Speedway Tavern. Speedway Tavern. Speedway Tavern. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. Enjoy your stay. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. What's the news today? Have a drink, have your say. All opinions here today. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. Enjoy your stay. Webby, GA, and Matt are here today. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. Come and have your say.
Hello and welcome to the Speedway Tavern once again. Is Speedway a dying sport? Well, I hope not, but it's fair to say that you would not have to walk far in your local track to find someone with that opinion. At the moment, it's certainly a shrinking sport. That cannot be denied. The loss of tracks such as Workington, Rye House, Stoke, and probably the biggest blow of all, Coventry, are proof of that. And of course, the pandemic has helped no one. And Speedway seems to insist on shooting itself in the foot. For instance, can we really afford to lose yet another club? Of course, I'm referring to the Isle of Wight, and without taking sides, I have to ask, is this really in the best interests of Speedway? Well, we will at least be able to hear one side of that story tonight, and as I once again say, only in Speedway.
And straight in.
Good evening. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. Thank you very much to Barry Bishop and Martin Widman from the Isle of Wight for joining us. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Yep. It's fine, thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
Not a problem. Thank you for coming. I think you had a fans thing that you had to cancel tonight. Is that right?
Yeah, we changed it. We had it yesterday instead.
Ah, okay. Well, there you go. So thank you very much for that. Okay, let me just, we'll be getting some questions through as the night goes on from some of fans and so on that join us on our chat box. So bear with us with that as they start filtering through. But I'd like to start with, how did it feel to be nominated as the most improved National League club in 2019 to then not be given the opportunity to ride in the league again?
Well, do you want to go first, Mark, or shall I? Well, okay. Well, it's heartbreaking. You know, we live and die by what we do. You know, it's we work so hard to create a show, to encourage new fans, to break the mold, to step away from the traditional Speedway fan. We wanted youth and young families. So when we won that award, it was our greatest achievement to that point in the sport. And then we found ourselves in a position where we couldn't continue. And that for us was heartbreaking. I've lost my club, Oxford. Martin's lost several clubs. He's a bit of a Jonah. But you know, it was just horrific. It was horrible. It was the worst non-family related experience of my life.
Well, I think the worst bit is not being able to defend our title, if you like, and not be there to, you know, at the next presentation to take the award that I think we might have got, and you know, a good chance of getting it. But we have to move on, I'm afraid.
Mm-hmm. And we'll certainly ask you about how you're intending to move on as we go through the night. One of the things that I'm hearing a lot about is that a lot of fans, basically, they seem to be believing that you left because of the points limit being lowered by 39 to 35, I think it was. Is that actually the reason that you left, or is there more to it than that?
No, it wasn't.
That's categorically not the reason we left. The reason why we left was whether we believed in 35 points or not, it was the fact that we had no choice in the matter. There was no discussion. There was no input from us as why that points limit would affect our business. So we found ourselves in a position where we had rules enforced upon us, which we had to agree to before we could attend a Zoom call to agree fixtures and things like that. And probably most heartbreaking for me, and it's still the same today, is we've not had any contact from any director of the BSBL, from any other promoter, but there are a couple of promoters that have contacted us, but I mean in regards to this matter. And that just says to me, they have no duty of care towards our business. They don't care whether we ran or not. We obviously added little value to the sport in their eyes. And so, yeah, it was a heartbreaking time. And the honest truth was, every single time where we had a question, had something said to us, let's take the 35 points limit. So we asked, and tell me if I get any of this wrong, Mark, but I think it would be right. We asked the BSPL if this way of imposing rules is set for the future, or are we going to have an AGM moving forward? And their answer was they couldn't confirm it. So that says to us that moving forward, we have no control of our business, because Speedway is a business, other than what the directors of the BSPL say. Because they can say to us at any point, for the interest of that business, the holding business, the BSPL, we're imposing these rules, and you can't do anything about it. So that was a red flag number one.
Did put it quite clearly in emails to them about that, the fact that we wanted to know whether it was going to continue, and there was never any clear answer back about that prospect happening. So, it was 35 this year. Who says it couldn't be down to 30 the following year? And there are problems with the 35 points limit, but we weren't allowed to get round the table and discuss those problems.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you sit down, we've obviously attended AGMs, and even if you disagree with something, the other clubs could have said, no, this is why it's so important. You've got to back it, Martin and Barry. This is why we need you. No, this is how it can be. This is what we think will happen. And then we make a decision. We say, you know what? Sorry, guys, we still don't believe in you, but we'll put our license on hold for a year, and then we'll come back in 2022. But we never had that choice. There was no discussion. It's our way, and you have no say. And that, to me, is totally wrong. Now, we also have, in the National League, a representative, Len Silver, it is at the moment, and he should attend any meeting, or at least be invited to attend, any meeting in which the National League is discussed. Now, he didn't attend any of them. So there's another problem. There's another big red flag for me that says, this is wrong. This is wrong. This isn't right. And the list goes on. We had, as I say, no interaction with any director of the board. The only person who communicated with us was the office administrator, and that was how it worked. And then we said that we didn't want to stay in the league. And if one of my employees left, or someone who worked with me left, at the very least, I'd want an exit interview. I'd want to know how I could improve for the next person. I want to know what made them decide to go. How can we make things better? Could you come back? When the BSPL invited us back, they said we'd be treated as a new member and would have to pay the application again. So it wasn't them encouraging us to stay. It was them literally kicking us out, or that's how it felt. I don't want to use the term bullied because people have different terms of the word bullying, but for me, we had no communication. There was no option for us to state what we felt or have any introduction as to why that points limit or the other rules that have been imposed would affect our business. It was zero interaction. And I know in the Speedway Star that Rob Godfrey said that we were told it was coming.
I was just going to
Let me tell you how that was said. He pointed his finger at the AGM and said, the National League will become more like the Conference League. Okay, guys, you three, tell me what that means.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that was all that was said. It meant nothing. Doesn't mean the points limit's going to come down. It could have gone up.
Yeah.
It didn't mean anything. It was just a statement flung out of the air, because actually what the real issue is, it's not about rider development. It's about cost cutting.
Right.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
Cost cutting. Because they don't want senior National League riders to stay in that league and not go up. Because when they do go up, they get a set of X amount in the National League, and there has to be a kind of, not necessarily a comparable amount of money that they would be assured of in order for them to cut the ties with the National League.
Mm.
That's it. That's the truth, in my view.
I think a lot of it as well, Barry, is that if you look at the clubs in the National League now, with the exception of Mildenhall are the only standalone club in that league now. All of the others are secondary clubs who've got a team running in that division who are also running in the higher division as well. Do you think in some ways, and this might be a bit of a controversial comment, but do you think in some ways there's a bit of jealousy about the progress that the Isle of Wight have made, or do you feel that way?
I didn't think so, but once we got that award, I thought, oh, maybe we've been accepted into the club, sort of thing. But like getting an invite into the local golf club, isn't it? But no, I don't know. It's just they could well have been jealous of what we were trying to do ever since we started. And I have to say that I think we've been to 5 AGMs, Barry, about 5 AGMs anyway, and never once have they talked about how do we improve the entertainment value of the sport. And that's what it's all about these days.
Yeah.
And especially this year, after 12 months away from the sport, be 18 months away, spectators are going to be hard to come by. And you need to think hard. The sport needs to think hard about how they're going to attract spectators back to the sport. And if you're not talking about the entertainment value, you're not talking about it being exciting, then where do you go? You go back to 15 heats of racing, tractor racing, and thanks very much, we've had your money, and go home.
For me, it's I've said this since day one. For me, it's a show, right? That's it. It's about people coming in, being entertained, going home, having had value for money.
Yeah.
And when in 2017 we finished bottom of the league, not one and I actually stand at the exit gate or somewhere around there, basically to dodge putting away the A-frames, but never so I stand as the fans exit, and in that year, not one person said to me, "You know what, Barry, you've got to change your team, mate. It's just not good enough. I'm not coming back." They all shook my hand as they were leaving or patted me on the back and said, "We love tonight, mate. Great, we'll win next week." And for me, I love winning. Don't get me wrong. We want to win all the time, but it's not about that. It's about seeing the kids' smiles on their faces. It's about, about the next generation. It's about, it just isn't just about Speedway anymore. It's about the show. It's about
entertainment.
It's about living the dream. That's what it's about for us. And unfortunately, as Martin said, we've sat in AGM after AGM and never has ever come up, how do we get more bums on seats? And in fact, we'll be having discussions about whether, John Armstrong was right to still be in the National League, and it's just not for that sort of thing. It's not for that time. And the other thing I say as well is every meeting I stand in front of the crowd, and we have to be. When I say I always mean Martin and I. We have to be proud that we're going to put on a show, because I stand in front of that crowd every week and I welcome everyone with my microphone. Welcome everyone to this meeting. You're going to have a great night tonight. Now, if I think that actually you can pick every race result before it starts and the entertainment isn't going to be there, you know what? Do I want to do that? Do I want to lie to the public? I'm not like that. I just think it's we have to be proud. You come to our home when you come to our track, and it has to be right.
Right.
I think with a lot of clubs, to be fair, there does still seem to be this attitude of we just throw the gates open and expect people to come in. You've got to go out there and one, get them in, and two, just make them realise that it's a great night out, and they've got to come back next week at the end of the day.
You want them back every week. Yeah.
I mean, we see all the time clubs doing similar things or exactly the same thing as we've done, and that's imitation is the greatest form of flattery, or whatever the saying goes, and that's great. But we always want to be cutting edge, and try and push the boundaries a bit. And I guess now we have that chance, right? So now we have the chance to continue our development of our show, because that's what it will be, and continue doing what we love, and that's putting on Speedway meetings in a fun-filled family environment that everybody wants to be part of.
Talking of breaking boundaries, I think Matt's got a question for you.
Yes, of course. There is the cost of the Isle of Wight applying to join the French league. Now, I think so a lot of people probably listening will probably think I didn't know there was a league in France, to be honest. But it's obviously a very, very it's obviously a very, very small league, but it's they do have competitive racing over there. Of course, we've seen the likes of David Balago, of course, riding over here in the UK on a fairly regular basis, and I believe Chris Harris has rode in the French league in 2019. So
I would imagine Adam Ellis has as well, hasn't he?
Adam Ellis, obviously, of course, he was born in France, wasn't he, Adam? So
yeah.
So there's a possibility there of say breaking boundaries, and of course, racing standalone in an overseas league.
But we've had a strong relationship, Speedway, with France. Actually, the under-20 or the GB Young Lions used to go there for their training camp before they saw the light and came to the Isle of Wight instead. The Isle of Wight itself has a strong relationship with French riders as well, and so the initial idea to join the French league wasn't this year. Actually, it was 2 years ago, right, Martin?
Yeah.
So in 2019, we were told that the points limit would be dropped in the times when we could discuss points limits. And we went in and we said to each other, you know what, if we don't get a workable points limit, we should look at going to the French league. And we explored the French league before we went into that meeting. And fortunately, we had the rights points limit that we could work with for the year. And that's another sad thing as well. We always say for the year, we should have a 5-year plan in Speedway. And anyway, so I'm glad we did that research, because when we found ourselves in this position, it was kind of, okay, right. So now we make the phone call, and we had a really great phone call with Thierry, who runs the French league. And we told him our position. In fact, he knew our position already. And we said we'd love to look at the possibility of becoming a French part of the French league. Now, there are, without doubt, some hurdles to overcome with getting machinery in and out, and the cost associated with that. Now it's £200 or £300 or something to do that. But in theory, it's something we would dearly love to get our teeth into, and he's now discussing it with his other clubs. He's translating their rule book for us, and we're going to sit down and have a look and see if it's a viable proposition for us and for them.
That would be quite exciting.
Did I miss anything, Mark, on that or not?
No. That's
And what sort of level does the French league ride at? Is it National League sort of level, or is it a Premiership or Championship? Where would you sort of place them?
I think it's. I think the only rule we know is you have to have one French rider, and I would say it's probably Championship level.
Right.
And five riders a team.
5 riders per
Yeah.
team. Yeah. And basically, I think from my discussion with Thierry, you go there and you do 2 meetings over a weekend. So you one on a Saturday, one on a Sunday.
Right.
And what about the actual rules? Are they much different regarding racing? Or
To be brutally honest,
you don't know?
because he's currently translating it for us.
Oh, right. Okay.
The stuff that I've seen on YouTube and stuff like that is good stuff. I don't see anything particularly different to what we do. There may be certain small rule changes about substitutions and things like that we don't know, but we'll have a look at that when the time comes.
Exciting.
So it's not the end of the road then for Isle of Wight Speedway,
No.
Definitely not. No.
Far from it.
which is
So,
great to hear.
Start of a new dawn.
So, sort of looking on your website, you're sort of intimating that there is going to be certain things happening this year, possibly open meetings and so on. What can you tell us about all of that?
Well, we first of all had to obviously find a governing body, which we did, which is it's called NORA, NORA 92, NORA Motorsport, and that's been around since 1992, as the name suggests. It's run by a guy, Roy, whose surname I can never remember. Martin, was it?
Barton.
Thanks. And he was basically part of the ACU for the motocross. He's also a Speedway fan. Used to go to Reading, and they already have clubs like iWade and Carl Russian's dirt track events under their banner.
Mm-hmm.
And so we approached him and we said, "This is the position that we're in. This is what we'd like to do. Is this something you can accommodate?" And really, it's without being dismissive, it was black and white. This guy was so accommodating, so friendly, so wants to work with you. So how can I help you? How quick do you need it? What can we help you with? It was total contrast.
Mm-hmm.
Total contrast. And
When we finished the call, I thought we'd missed something here because it was just so simple, wasn't it, Barry?
Yeah,
The process was, the discussion was simple.
Yeah.
And he knows about running motorsport, and he knows it needs to be simple, or else you can, overcomplicate things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all under one banner. The licensing, the running of the meetings, the insurance, it's all under them. Obviously, the insurance is subcontracted out, but it's all organised through him. So you're not dealing with 3 different people or 3 different organisations to run a meeting.
Right.
And so having achieved that, which was remarkably easy and good, we then thought, okay, what's our goals? What do we want to do? And we know that we have to have a team to follow. So we will have team challenges. It will be great to challenge all of our favourites that we challenged before, like my club, Oxford, Exeter, or Plymouth maybe, or Cradley, or Reading, or whoever would like to come and participate. Weymouth, the guys. Then we thought, okay, we have a speedway school, so we can't just suddenly say, right, we're gonna do this. We need to maintain our MDL standard riders as well. So we plan to work with those guys. Then we looked at what's our favourites. What do we do really well? And things like our handicap meetings and our pairs meetings and our open meetings were all great successes. So the plan is to have a combination of those. We will probably put on a dozen or so meetings in the summer and give British riders additional track time for the benefit of everybody, everyone in the sport, Speedway, the sport. So all the riders will have the benefit of that, being able to still access the Isle of Wight track to participate in good quality events for the benefit of everybody.
Sounds perfect. Sounds great. Yeah, I don't know what else to add to that.
And you'll be glad to know that the points limit will not be 35.
You're going to tell me it's 32 now, aren't you?
No, definitely not.
Can I just ask as well?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry to interrupt you there. Just ask as well. Of course, you've got another former Isle of Wight rider who's returned to the club now in the shape of Brendan Johnson, who's rejoined the club as a member of your commercial team. So just talk us through what the thinking process was behind that.
Well, he's been badgering me for years for a job. No. Brendan was the first rider we signed actually when we took over, and he unfortunately had an accident and couldn't ride. But I've always maintained contact with Brendan, and if you look at Brendan, the person, he's been an achiever on a speedway track, but he's also been an achiever off the speedway track in his work, and whether that's with with Hypos, the hydraulic company, or with his current company, which is Pertec, where he holds a national position there. So he is a natural person in his type of role to bring into a commercial role with us because he's kind of Martin and I were getting on a bit, so he's the age group lower that we want to really interest. He'll be perfect for walking into someone who's only 25 and runs their own company, or only 20 and runs their own company, because I'm not saying that we can't communicate with them, but he's like them, he's the same as them, and he's going to speak from the same hymn sheet because he knows exactly what we're doing, he believes in it thoroughly, he understands exactly what happened to us and disagrees with that thoroughly as well and how that happened to us. So he's part of this vehicle that we're moving forward on, and everybody knows that we live and die by sponsorship. We're proud of the amount of sponsorship that we get, and we tend to grow that. And we want companies to be associated with us for all the right reasons. Not for being the maverick out there organisation, but the ones that are looking at the bigger picture of the sport, the show, the additional rides for riders, bringing collectively everybody together of all age groups. That's what we want people to be associated with, the community of the club, like it used to be.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions coming in for us?
Just a few.
Oh, okay.
100. Okay, so I'll start from this up. Some of these might not be relevant to what we've just been talking about, though, because they were said a few minutes ago. Colin Whitlock says, I'm with you 100%, guys. David Crane said, well said, Barry. Shocking treatment. Simon Corbett says, good on you, somebody making a stand. Brian Buck says, is it not possible for the Speedway Control Bureau to intervene on Isle of Wight's behalf? I
can answer that. And actually, there's members of the SCB are also members of the BSPL, so it wouldn't.
Oh, right.
I think there's four members of the SCB, and two of them are BSPL members.
Right.
So it's wheels within wheels there.
Yeah.
I think the SCB many years ago was set up as an independent body, but it's far from independent. And it just translates the rules that were decided by the BSPL into a rule book.
But actually, was Neil or what the guy's name was? He raised a really good point. Why haven't the SCB contacted us and said, what on earth's going on?
And why haven't the ACU?
Why haven't they contacted us and said...
So you've had no contact whatsoever?
None. Zero.
Absolutely none.
I think that's probably the most damning thing out of all of it.
It seems like they don't care.
Yeah.
And what you've mentioned, and several clubs that have gone never to return. surely somebody must be concerned about another track leaving their stable.
As a
Yeah,
fan,
it's just-
I
yeah, it's
certainly am.
So just over a decade, of course, we had the whole farce with Coventry and Peterborough. It looked like they weren't even going to be able to get into the elite league, and then it always felt, even when that was resolved, it just like felt it was swept under the carpet. Oh, we'll just forget about it now, just pretend it never happened.
And I don't. This isn't. I don't want this discussion to be just about the BSPL, but there's been a recent retrospective planning application put in to develop Rye House into football pitches. I got to know about it through Richard Hollingsworth at Scunthorpe, and you had the chance to object to it. And there's probably about 1,800 objections, of which 1,200-ish were objecting to the retrospective planning permission being sought. Mm-hmm. And you would have thought this was probably the last chance to save Rye House as a speedway facility. And only 3 British Speedway promoters put the name to it.
I was one.
That's Barry, Mark Phillips, and myself. Ty Woofenden did. Michael Palmtoft did. Lots of riders, but nobody from the BSPA. Unless I've missed them in the list, but I don't think so. And that sort of says to me, they don't care about the future of the sport.
Anyway, sorry.
You keep going.
Yeah.
Chris?
Okay, so Stuart says, plenty of children enjoy their evening. You need to be there to see it. Also, old age pensioners get picked up and are welcomed. It's a joy to see all thanks to Barry and Martin and the families. Mildenhall, the only side in the pyramid, now not getting any funding from the BSPL, says Jeremy.
It's true.
Kim says, I've been a Speedway fan for 40 years, a die-hard Hackney and Rye House fan. I love going to the Isle of Wight, the best track I've ever been. So friendly, they cared about the fans, and well done to them, and all the best for the future.
Lovely.
I'm nearly crying.
There's lots of compliments. Mark says, sounds like a breath of fresh air. The sport is in dire need of a radical shape-up.
Well, Barry does say frequently, probably every week, if you don't like something, tell me before you tell the world.
Yeah.
And there aren't many people come and tell him. And when they do, we act on it.
Yeah, that's right.
We listen to people.
Yeah.
And, and that's how you've got to engage the fans.
I think, that as the sport as a whole needs to have a vision, and that needs to be 3, 5, and 10 years. And what are you measured by? What's your target? Anyone who works in sales, they have a target. If you hit your target, happy days. If you don't, people ask questions of you. And so we need to be hitting targets on our fan base, on our marketing, on our. I wrote the other day that in some ways our sport is really naive, in that if you look at the US market, the US financial markets at the moment, everyone's expecting inflation. Why are they expecting inflation? Because of the government handout of $1,200 to every citizen. So what happens when the BSPL or an organization gets a television deal and they say, great, we've got this great television deal, it's X, and they give it out to all the clubs, all the providers of the sport are going, happy days, that's 7%, 10%, 15%. Riders are going, that's 10%, 15%. The prices go up. If I was running it, I'd be saying, right, 25% of that goes to the club, 75% of that goes to buy an asset. Buy Rye House. Build a track. Buy something. Because if you've got an asset, guess what you can do with an asset? You can borrow against it to buy the next one. And you build your empire. You don't just give it out on short, zero return wins for the organisation And the only people that benefit are people that use the sport, and I mean that and for an income, and not the overall sport itself, because that's what's happened. That's what's happened. So we have no BSP, no organisational owned facility, nothing. You could even start with, Northside or the one at Berwick or something. Buy something and train kids on it. Buy something.
Brandon.
Get an asset. Pardon?
By Brandon.
By Brandon.
Buy anything.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure Brandon was up for sale at one time, wasn't it? And that was the opportunity when, you could have had centre of excellence.
I think an offer has been made for Brandon, but it's not been rejected. It's not been accepted either. I think they're just pretending it hasn't been put in.
And my other view is, and I say this every time, we have a flipping great sport, right? It's brilliant. And
agreed.
We have to talk our sport up, not down. And we always turn a negative into a positive, We always try and make something good happen, And so the more that we say that amongst our friends, the more people are going to want to come and visit. Because when I was going to Speedway as a child, I had a separate group of friends that were at the Speedway track, my school friends and my friends at Sea Cadets. Yeah. Our crowds now are so small, you don't have that anymore with kids. I don't know if you guys remember, and this is a true story, and Stuart Baker will probably remember this if he's listening, is at Oxford, we used to walk around with Coke cans on our shoes, right? On our left shoe was the steel shoe of the riders. Now, one time there's a big gang of kids outside the retreat, which is our burger bar, and I said, wait a minute, I'll show you something. So I got an empty can out of, I can't remember if I drank it or put one out the bin. And I said, watch this. And I put this on my shoe, my left foot, and was walking around pretending to be a rider. Do you know how many of them were doing that the week after and the week after? Giving away tear-offs. I've got the riders to sign tear-offs. They love it. They love it. And that element, I know tracks are doing it, but that's what we love. We love being in front of people and making people love the show. I want every child there to want to be Ben Morley, because he's their hero, not Ty Woffington, Ben Morley.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Yeah. Really. Some guy called Matty Bates. I don't know. I've heard of him.
Oh, not him.
He said,
you got more advice, Matty. Come on.
Wait for the awkward question, Barry.
He said, no. He said, if you guys need a rider, I'm going to need a bigger suit because I've got fat since I started pen pushing instead of throttle twisting.
Now, Matt has been talking a lot of sense on Facebook lately, and it's not been exaggerated. It's good common sense from a guy that knows what he's talking about. His experience of riding is, in the big time now with Plymouth in the Championship League. He's been, writing some good stuff, and it's been worth watching.
He was on our show a few weeks back now, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, he's a star.
Yeah.
It was, Good guess. Have we come to the end of the comments?
No,
okay, right. So, absolutely, because it's all about participation.
Stuart says 21 points rider at Coventry riding for the Isle of Wight was the best night in Speedway for us. I'll never forget it.
He's biased. that was one of the highlights of the Warriors, I think, to see Nathan score that 21-point maximum at Coventry. It's
and Lawrence Rogers, I know he watches all the time. He was sobbing. Sorry, Lawrence. Sorry.
Craig says Adrian Smith is an owner at Bellevue who speaks to the fans and engages with the fans. If only the people running the sport buy into this idea and listen to the fans for a change. Yeah, that's true. There's nothing like a Barry Bishop when he's on fire, says Graham.
Don't set on fire. Don't set on fire.
Speedway only has two problems: self-inflated egos and social media. That's a good conversation to get into. Social media.
Social media is a good conversation.
Yeah, I think social media is challenging. It's easy to write something if you're annoyed, or if you don't care. I mean, with my work my normal job, I have to we go through some pretty strenuous times, and Martin and I have been through some strenuous times. And you write an email, and I now have a rule: I don't send it. Go and have a cup of coffee, come back, reread your email.
Yeah.
But the problem with social media is it's instant.
It's instant.
It's instant.
Yeah.
And the damage that instant can cause, and the length of time it takes to rebuild that reputation is and to be honest, I think social media had a big part to play in the demise of Stoke.
Right.
I really think that. I really think that it was talked through the floor. We know the issues that Stoke had, which were very well documented. But instead of people, and I don't know if this actually happened, but if it was my track or our track, I would hope people would write to us and say, you know what, sort the bathroom out, sort the track out, or do whatever is needed, rather than put it all across Facebook. Because if people read it, they don't go.
Yeah.
That's it. I wouldn't take my family to somewhere that was described terribly, or if you look up on TripAdvisors and the references are terrible, you just wouldn't do it. So when you're doing that report, that negative thing, really think if you, can I speak to the promoter or someone in authority before I do that? And B, am I actually going to mess up my own club if I'm writing about my own club?
Think about the damage.
That's been a bone of contention with me for a very long time about the damage that comment, not just to the club, but also to individual riders as well.
But I'm sure that everybody wants the same aim, but just people can't articulate it properly. In general, they just it's an off the cuff remark, which if you're in the pub over a beer, no one would care about, but when you type it, it's there forever.
Because everybody reads it and everybody comments on it, and it just gets blown out of all proportion.
And everybody knows what they're talking about.
There's been a couple of comments that I've read, not on Facebook, on something else, and it was about us throwing the toys out of the bath, and that really hurt because that person did not know how much effort, how much money, how much time Barry and myself and all our volunteers put into running Speedway at Smallbrook Stadium. And had they known, they would have realised that it wasn't as just throwing our dummy out of the pram. It was, a serious threat to the business, a business which Barry and myself set up and have funded.
That's right.
Teresa wants to know, do Isle of Wight get many fans from the mainland, or is it really only Isle of Wight people they are promoting to?
No, we promote to everybody, anyone. We do get mainland fans. In fact, we get regular fans that come over every week from London, from Kent. But I would say, it depends on the time of year. Obviously, we're a tourist attraction as well. So we do. It sounds like an adventure to get to the Isle of Wight, but it really is very easy. And the one thing I can guarantee you, 100%, you will have a great time if you come to our Speedway. And if you don't, tell me. I don't mind. I can listen to someone who genuinely has an issue that or reason why they didn't have a great time. Because we want to learn as well.
Because you only want to make your product better. And the only way you're going to make your product better is to know what you're doing wrong.
Exactly.
Steve Morgan says, I did the Coke can left shoe run in running circles.
You must have been rich, Barry, to afford Coke cans.
Actually, it was probably a stolen beer can from the Skull Bar on the other side of the track when I was there.
Yes, Teresa, the guys from the Isle of Wight make it affordable for you to get over there. A lot do travel. Chase the Ace gives out tear-offs to the kids at Bellevue. Kids love it. I can't wait till I can take my 4-year-old son to a meeting soon. He watches on TV. But we all know it doesn't feel the same
Can I just big myself up here, because that's what I do as well. It's because I work on the track.
I thought you were talking about Coke tins then for a bit.
No. and I do give out. I pick up all the tear offs from the tracking in the interval. I go around and give it to the kids. Some of them look at me confused, and then they realise what it is, and there's a big smile on their face, and they love it.
Oh, so you're right now, yes.
Thanks for that. But I've often thought, I mean, I love doing it. I enjoy doing that, but it'd be so much better if it was a rider that was doing it.
Well, we do. That's how we do it. The rider signs it. That's what we do. A rider signs it, comes out with me and does it. But the best thing that we did, kids wise, because we do have lots of different things for the kids. But one day I said to Martin, "What do you think about taking do you remember this, Mark? Taking a speedway bike down on the track at half time, starting it up, and we get 4 or 5 kids to come out and have a little rev." And we took down a speedway bike. We cordoned it all off properly, health and safety. Had someone coming in. The queue was round bend 1. I mean, it was unreal. It was everyone. But the truth of it is, how many speedway fans has ever seen how responsive or felt how responsive a throttle is on a speedway bike? It's like nothing you've ever had in your hand and twisted.
Barry, I bet there was some big kids there in the queue as well.
Pretending
to be little kids. There
was also kids that didn't realise that when I said, "Take it easy, treat it like a lady," they had no clue what that meant.
No. I'd have been there.
Yeah, I'll bet as well.
David wants to know, what does Barry think to the doubling up rule? 2/3 of PL are also riding in CL. Too many guests put off fans.
I think it's a challenge for the sport. It's a rock and a hard place for the moment. Speedway is going through a problem where it's called supply and demand, right? And if you haven't got enough supply, the demand goes up, and so the price goes up. So the only way to make the price go down is to increase the supply. And the only way you increase the supply is you have a great national league with lots of riders coming through that eventually will filter to the top. Now, because that's been probably not looked after properly for the last 5-10 years, we're in a position now where we don't have so many riders. We also have a challenge with Brexit, of course. And some riders genuinely have to have 2 leagues in order to make it funded. Now, whether that's because engine costs or tuning and everything else that we know is skyrocketed, or what that particular reason is, I don't know. But I totally agree that the sooner doubling up is taken out of the sport, the better. Fans have a right, in my view, to associate a relationship with their riders and their team.
Absolutely.
And the
Hallelujah.
stronger that bond is, guess what? The more that's going to grow, the more they're going to come back year on year. My favourite rider was Gordon Kennett and Mick Hanley, actually. And when Gordon Kennett came to our track with Oxford, I was like a kid in a candy store. It was just unbelievable. And he kept saying to me how brilliant it is we're doing here. He loved it, had a great time, and was telling me great things about how Martin and I was doing it. It was just, you can't beat that thing. And so I genuinely believe that fans have a right to build relationships. And the way that you do that is by maintaining as many of your team every year that's possible. And you have a whole team that doesn't ride for anyone else.
Yeah, I absolutely have said that for a while now. I mean, I look back to the first year that Birmingham Speedway came back, and I introduced my lads to Speedway for the first time, and they loved that first season. Now, their favourite rider at the time was a lad called Ben Powell, who, as we know, went on to be a little bit naughty, but at that point, he was our favourite rider. And my oldest son completely lost interest in Speedway the next year because his favourite rider didn't return. Completely lost interest.
Speedway can't continue down its path of being sterile. And what I mean by that is you need characters, right? You need people that interact with the fans. You want, dare I say it, I don't want to use the word a scrap, but you want controversy, you want elbows, you want to get the fans wild. I can remember one time the referee told me to stop it. Do you remember the Mildenhall meeting, Martin, when I went out with a loudhailer? And I was screaming to our fans with a loudhailer, and the referee told me to stop it because it fell in with the health and safety fire regulations. And I was using a loudhailer. I mean, come on.
I remember that there was a promoter in the 70s. I can't remember which riders was involved and who it was now, but Matt might know. I think it might be a story. Do you know the story that I'm going to?
Yes, I don't know who the riders were. I think it was actually in the 60s, I think. But,
was it?
Two riders who had a bit of a confrontation on the track and came into the pits and started scrapping, and the home promoter came running up to them and saying, "Don't do it here, go on the track where they can see you."
Don't stop.
It's entertainment.
Then,
of course, Barry, we had the smoke machine. Which
we also had a smoke machine as well. Because at the Isle of Wight, we bring our riders down through the crowd for the parade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to have a smoke machine, or we want to have a smoke machine pumping smoke down. So like the start of boxing or darts.
Yeah.
And cool music, lasers, boom, 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 boom.
Brilliant.
Can't do it. Fire and safety. I mean, it's so ridiculous.
Oh,
My view is you stick a little entry in your program or a sign when you walk through the door which says, "This show contains lasers, smoke machine, bangs, motorcycles, and lots of fun." Whatever you want.
Yeah.
But don't just say you can't do it. Find a way around it. That's the problem, actually. Another problem in the sport in general is I always hear you can't do it. No one says, but you might be able to do it if you do it this way.
Yeah,
Well, how about going that way?
Mm.
Maybe if you just change it a little bit.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We don't want to put up a brick wall. I want to put on a show that makes people go home, tell their friends. Little Johnny tells little Mary at school. Little Mary tells mum and dad, and they come. That's what I want. Simple.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done it in our own challenge matches and events where we put out the Midland Development Southern League teams. We put 2 heats in after heat 4 of the main meeting, and then another 2 heats after heat 8, and another after 12. It breaks up the main meeting slightly, but what it does is it gives the guys in the Midland Development League an opportunity to rest a bit, because they end up with 2 rides on the trot, and you get an extraordinary long break between them. And at Smallbrook, it's a long track, it's tiring track, and if you put them on at the end, you find that there's nobody left to watch them. So we've done our own.
We don't have that. People stay.
We can't do it in a National League meeting.
Yeah.
Not allowed to. Why? Because they fall off and there's more chance of first aiders, ambulance, etc. No, they don't. It's just,
That's right. It's too restrictive. You're caged. You've got to break the mold. Break the mold.
Not like this year.
It won't be like that.
What was it Confucius said? To keep doing the same thing and expect a different result is madness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you do the same thing, you get the same result week in, week out.
True.
Yeah.
And there lays one thing that we should improve in the sport is don't do the same thing.
Okay. Yeah.
That's true.
I'm just Chris, before you start, obviously we're not going to be able to get through everybody's comments tonight, so we apologise to everybody that we've missed. We're really trying as hard as we can to get through them.
I thought there's only a dozen watching.
No, we get.
I'm not used to this fate.
No, there's a couple of thousand. A few thousand, actually.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
I'll get a couple anyway. Steve wants to know what sort of attendances do you get at the Isle of Wight, and what's the split? Adults, kids, holidaymakers, residents, sort of thing.
Well, that's a lot.
I know, yeah. No, I think he just wants to know, is it more adults or kids or so forth?
It's quite surprising, actually. When we took it over, I would say it was our generation that came. It was the old school, the old fans, and now I would say we have more families and kids attend than our generation.
Yeah.
Of course, that is probably because some of them are on holiday, and some of them are are regulars that come week in, week out. So from that perspective, I think we have a different demographic to anybody else in Speedway. It's family.
And Connor's just said going to the island is like going on holiday.
Who's that? Connor King or Connor Cole?
Connor King.
Yeah.
Connor
Well,
King,
he treats it like he's on holiday as well.
Yeah.
He's never been to Skegness. Stuart says, we know exactly how much not just only you two, but your family's put into it. Obviously, he's saying not only you two, but your family's also put into this as well. So
You know what? The truth of it is, it's one great big family, and the volunteers that help us, they are as committed as we are. One of the things actually, we are emotionally in love with that club, and they are as well. It's an emotional attachment. It's not something that you can lift up and just throw away to one side with no side effect. Yeah. And we knew what that would be like, and we're very thankful for the great team that we have that help us, because without them, we're nothing. We can't do it.
Absolutely. And they're so passionate about the stadium, the team, the show that we put on.
Yeah.
The quality of the food in the burger bar.
Yeah.
The quality of the food in the Premier Lounge, the service that we put on. They're all extremely passionate about what they do.
Yeah. It's common sense, isn't it? You give them what they want and they'll come back.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not rocket science, is it? It's not rocket science. Yeah.
I think sadly common sense has lacked in Speedway for a long time,
Exactly,
isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
The trouble with common sense is it's not all that common.
Look, you know what? We have a great sport, and we can say things about it, and we can. My view is, it's the same. I don't want to criticize anybody. I just wish we'd all sit around the table and for the common good to take it the right way. Everybody, and that's it at the end of the day. Because the truth of it is, actually, you can all sit and be individual pods and worry about your business, but guess what? If the sport itself is rocketing, like in Poland, every business is a success. And the only way that your business will be a success is if your partners, the other teams, is a success. And that's where the sport needs to unite and stop, separating and everything else in order to have a great product. I don't want to call it a rubber stamp product, because you need to have differences, but you need to know when you go to a stadium, you're going to get a decent pint, a good quality beef burger, clean toilets, friendly staff, car park attended, a baby changing mat in the toilets. You need to know that you're going to be close with the riders. You need to know that you're going to see action. You need to know that you're going to feel entertained. And when you leave, hopefully you're going to have value for money, and you're going to tell your mates. And if we get that as a rubber stamped organisation, and I'm talking about the sport, then we can move it forward. If we keep infighting and
that of course is how they run most sports in America.
Correct. Yeah.
It might be worth, they ought to do an audit, quality audit of meetings and stadiums, and against the things that you've talked about there, Barry. How does the food match up? And and then the promoters would know where they've got to improve things.
We actually, our training schools, we have like a secret COVID inspector and things like that to inspect, to make sure that we're doing it. And we don't tell anyone that person's coming with the current situation. And we had a secret shopper attend as well. I won't tell you who he was, because he's quite famous. Okay. And he came and gave us a full report on how he thought we did. Martin and I told no one that he was coming, and it was good.
That's good.
We're not afraid for people to look at what we're doing. That's
brilliant. I've just got time to get one more comment, and then we'll have to round it off. Mike.
Wow.
Ian Burke says, it's another compliment, I'm afraid. You can always find Barry at a meeting. He's always got the loudest shirt on. Martin always also regularly walks to the crowd,
Filthy.
regularly stopped and had a word with me and my son. Top blokes.
Covered from head to foot in shell, probably.
Yeah.
Martin claims to be covered in shale. I know it's makeup. Look like you've done something.
Do you know, just to quickly finish off, Chris, there's a great quote in Simon Wigg's autobiography. I'm not sure whether any of you guys have ever read it. Towards the end of the first part of the book, which is written by himself, sadly, before he succumbed to his illness, where he said something along the lines of, if Speedway was raking money in, then people would listen to them. But the bottom line is, clubs are not. They're struggling to survive, and yet turning around telling each other how to run their own businesses. No, there's a lot of truth in what Wiggy said, to be honest.
Yeah. And on that note, Michael,
And he would have been.
I have got probably the most important question of the night.
go on then.
So, Barry, why didn't Mark Baisby go around the outside against Cradley in 2015?
Very good.
Over to you, Barry.
Yeah.
Can you
We need
remember,
Andrew Keane to answer that one.
Yeah.
can you remember that one?
Yeah. He would remember.
It's time to say good night.
There you go.
Right,
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
very much indeed.
Cheers, everybody.
And thank you,
Cheers,
everybody, for joining
bye.
in on the chat as well. It's been brilliant. Thanks a lot. And we'll see you probably in a couple of weeks, I would guess.
Yeah. Stay safe, everyone.
Yep, stay safe. Absolutely.
Good night.
Take care. Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Welcome to